You know this face. The world calls it the face of the Dust Bowl, but the woman in it left Oklahoma in 1920, 6 years before the first black blizzard, before anyone had even said those two words. She was already gone when the storms came. So here is what her face quietly tells you. The dust is not what drove them off the land. Paper did, foreclosure notices, and federal checks that paid landowners to clear their fields. This is the road out of the dust, and at the end of it, an entire state was waiting to turn them back. March 1936. A frozen pea pickers camp at the edge of a field in Nipomo, California. The crop had died in a cold snap, the work was gone, and a 32-year-old mother sat in a lean-to tent with her children around her. Her name was Florence Owens Thompson. Dorothea Lange raised a camera, pressed the shutter, and made the most famous photograph of the Great Depression. Her children are in that picture, so I'm not going to show it to you. Look instead at what it doesn't say. Florence had come west for work, and by now she had run out of everything but the road. Lang scribbled in her field notes that the family had just sold the tires off the car to buy food, and were living on frozen peas from the field and the small birds the camp could bring down. Whatever had put her here, and put the whole ragged camp around her here, had almost nothing to do with the weather. They called it flight from the dust, a storm so big it turned day into night, and a whole people running west to get out from under it. That is the story you know, and it isn't quite true. The dust lit the fuse, no question. But the thing that actually emptied the Great Plains, the thing that drove some 2.5 million people out of the region in a single decade, that wasn't the weather at all. It was three things, and you can name every one of them. It was foreclosure. It was a federal check, New Deal money that paid landowners to throw families off the land. And it was a machine that could finally farm without them. The dust got the headlines. These three got the people. This is the road out of the dust, and the dust was only where it started. Every migration has a day it turns real. This one had April 14th, 1935. They still call it Black Sunday. A wall of black rolled down out of the north, a thing that ran 1,000 miles, from the Dakotas clear down to the Texas Panhandle, and turned a Sunday afternoon into midnight. Picture one man caught in it. A farmer walks out to check his stock, reaches for his own fence line in the dark, and cannot find the wire with his hand. Chickens went to roost at 3 in the afternoon. On a road near Boise City, an Associated Press man named Robert Geiger got caught out in the open, and in the story he filed the next day, he reached for two words that stuck to the whole region for good. Bowl. Maimed these people. The storm named these people. It did not empty their land. Schubert. Their land was emptied on paper. The dust never took a single farm. The mortgage did. In the worst years, foreclosure took the mortgaged Oklahoma farms by the 1,000. But here is what the photographs leave out. Most of the men ruined on the plains had never owned an acre to lose. They were tenants and sharecroppers, working ground that belonged to someone else for a share of a crop that only got smaller. When it failed under a man like that, the owner simply turned him off it. He had no deed, no claim, nothing to sell but his own 2 hands. And most of the people who ended up on that western road never came out of the dust country at all. They came off the cotton land to the east, out of Arkansas and Missouri and East Texas, where the sky had nothing to do with it. What failed them was the arrangement itself. Then, Washington did something it never meant to do. The New Deal's farm program paid landowners to plant less, so they did by planting no tenants at all. Take the government check, buy a tractor, plow the sharecropper's cabin under, and keep the whole payment for yourself. Steinbeck saw it plainly. One man on a tractor could now do the work it had taken a dozen families to do before. Picture the man on the receiving end of that. Someone who has worked the same rented acres for years, handed a slip of paper in the spring, told to be gone before the planting, so a machine he will never own can do in an afternoon what his whole family did in a season. Early in 1934, a planter named Hiram Norcross did exactly that to more than 20 families at once on one Arkansas plantation. That July, the men he had thrown off the land walked into a country schoolhouse and started the Southern Tenant Farmers Union, black and white sharecroppers in the same room, in 1934, in the Arkansas Delta, an arrangement older than the automobile was ending, and it ended in a bank ledger and a tractor seat. And the collapse did not stop at the fields. When the census finally counted the people on that road, only about a third of them had come off a farm at all. The rest came out of town. Think of one of them, the garage mechanic on a small main street whose customers had quietly stopped driving, then stopped coming in, then stopped waving on their way past his shuttered door. He had spent 15 years learning an engine cold, and the country he lived in no longer had work for a man who could fix one. The dust emptied the fields, and one storefront behind the fields, it emptied Main Street too. There is no famous photograph of the man who sat in a dark garage waiting for a car that never pulled in, until the day the bank took the garage as well. And whatever a man had been back home, mechanic, clerk, farmer, preacher, the road ahead asked him exactly one thing: could he pick? Whatever they had been, the road made them one thing, and the road had a name. U.S. Highway 66, Chicago to the California coast, 2,400 miles of it. John Steinbeck drove these camps himself in 1936, reporting a series for a San Francisco newspaper, 3 years before he wrote the novel. And when he did write it, he fixed 66 in the story forever as the road the fleeing families took west. They drove it in jalopies, old cars patched and patched again, every last thing a family owned roped to the roof, a mattress, a trunk, a butter churn. In the Texas Panhandle, one stretch was still bare dirt, a place they called the Jericho Gap, and when it rained it turned to mud deep enough to swallow an axle whole. Local farmers made a trade of it, charging a few dollars to haul the stranded free with a team of mules. The road punished them just for being on it, and it still was not done with them. Because the road ended at a wall nobody had told them about, a line on a map. For years, California had run farm inspection stations on its borders, put there, honestly enough, to stop crop pests at the state line. By the middle of the 30s, they had quietly become something else. In February of 1936, the Los Angeles police chief sent more than 100 of his own officers, hundreds of miles out to those state lines, not to the city's borders, to the states, with orders to turn back anyone who looked broke. The papers called it the Bum Blockade. Stand at one of those lines with them. A man pulls up, wife beside him, everything they own strapped to the car. An officer leans in and asks how much money he is carrying. And when the answer is not enough, he waves him back the way he came. Turned around at the edge of a state he had crossed a whole continent to reach. and the ones who did get through found the other side was no rescue at all. Growers papered the plains with handbills, "Come west, pickers wanted," and printed far more of them than there were jobs on purpose, so that 10 men would show up for every one day's work, and each would take less to get it. A long day in the cotton could pay $1, sometimes less. The lucky ones found a spot in a squatter camp along an irrigation ditch, a few tents and a cook fire on somebody else's ditch bank, and waited for the federal camps to open. The unlucky ones just kept driving. And the people already in California had a word they threw at every newcomer in a dust-caked jalopy with a mattress on the roof, Okie. Whether the family had come from Oklahoma or Arkansas or anywhere else, they got the same name. In some town windows, the sign said no work, and everyone knew exactly who the sign was for. It was not a place. It was an insult. And this was the California that Florence Thompson had reached 10 years early. She had gotten out ahead of the storm, ahead of the tractors, ahead of the whole story. And the story had caught up with her anyway, in a lean-to tent, at the edge of a dead field, with the tires sold off the car. Lange drove off with the picture. It ran in the papers within days, and within a year it was the face of the Great Depression, a face the whole world knew and could not name. Florence stayed in the fields. Her husband was already gone, tuberculosis. Back in '31, she raised the children on farm work and hospital shifts and kept moving with the crops for years after the shutter clicked. She was 32 in that tent, and she outlived the Depression by more than 40 years. For most of those years, no one knew her name. The woman in the picture was just the woman in the picture, until an interview late in her life finally gave the face a person. She never earned $1 from the most famous photograph of her century, and for the rest of her life she asked to be left out of it. "I wish she hadn't taken my picture," she said near the end. So when you see it, and you will, remember what it does not say. The dust lit the fuse, but it was the bank and the federal check and the machine that emptied the plains behind her and drove millions off the land. Florence just reached the end of that road 10 years early. The storm got its photograph. These people got the miles, and the dust was only ever the fuse. If their story stayed with you, subscribe to Lost and Found Archives and help keep them from being forgotten. New faces from before living memory.